legs. Oh, shoot. I mean, arms. This was a very promising game for early Switch fans, myself included. This game was shaping up to be Nintendo's next big IP. Many people had them as a lock to get into Smash Bros, and they were eventually right. But it had audiences excited to get a brand new Switch game super early in the console's lifecycle. People were sick of snipping clips, milking cows, and they just wanted to punch something. And who could blame them? ARMS was looking clean. Great character design, a unique concept for a fighting game. It seemed to be showing off the Switch's hardware and software capabilities. And the music! ARMS had all these things and more going for it, making Nintendo fans think it was going to be a massive hit. So, what happened? Well, the game kind of sucks ass. So I normally go about these videos talking about games and all of their aspects, but ARMS is a rare case. So today I would like to focus solely on gameplay. Because I mean, really, there isn't much more to talk about. Everything else knocks it out of the park. Can we get the drum again? Sorry, the game just isn't that fun to play.
If it's not fun, why bother?
Ironically, where this game feels best is using motion controls that don't work. Because if you want to play ARMS, well, playing with the Joy-Cons motion controls is very tricky and slippery. When you want to move left or right, you have to tilt the Joy-Cons those respective ways. But where things get tricky is that you use your Joy-Cons to also move forward, backwards, and for punching. Throwing a springy right hook in real life and smacking your opponent in the face feels awesome. But it doesn't feel awesome when I was only trying to move left. So to get the best result, you're better off using a Pro Controller or one of its variants. Especially when going up against the Grand Prix harder difficulties and people online, it makes it impossible to go in with Joy-Cons if you're actually trying to win. But right there is the biggest question of competitive games like ARMS. How do you win? What are the tools you have to ensure your victory? And will it be fun to move around with your fighter? Well, to answer the first question, you may have guessed this if you have a large brain like me, but you have to get your opponent's health down to 0 before they get your health down to 0. Crazy. It's pretty simple. But how do you do that, How do you play? Well, the idea behind ARMS is boxing in a ring, but at quite a distance with extendable arms. Originally, Nintendo mascots like Mario and Luigi were going to be the characters with extendable arms, which thank goodness they didn't do, because But thankfully, they made original characters, which are amazing. You get 5 standard movements in ARMS. You can jump, dash, grab, shield, and punch. Every move varies across characters. For example, Ninjara's shield allows him to substitute jutsu out of the way of a hit, and Ribbon Girl can jump more than one time. Some characters float, some characters collapse in on themselves like the freak of nature they are. Every character uses these 5 basic movements, but it's how you use these movements that determines if you win. Like a fighting game. Another way to ensure your win is how you use the arms. There are a couple different types of arms in ARMS, with many, many variants. Standard punch, curve punch, triple punch, whip punch, puffer punch, slow big, slow punch, bird punch, dragon laser beam, hammer punch, homing punch, shield punch, triple horizontal punch, and nunchuck punch. And on top of having all these different types of arms, there are still more variants on top of that, all depending on the type of punch you use to get different elemental abilities. Springman's standard glove, on charge, has a burn effect, dealing 130 damage instead of the glove's initial 90, while the yellow zappy gloves stun your enemy with electricity, disabling their arms and leaving them wide open. The big slow punch bats away incoming punches for a huge hit. The homing and variant triple punch explode for big damage, as well as knocking your opponents back. You can also use your rush attack. When the time is right, you go in for a flurry of punches, which feels pretty cool with the Joy-Cons, not gonna lie. So, that's a lot of stuff, and for the sake of time and all of our sanity, we didn't cover a lot. So, hey, it sounds like fun, right? All these different abilities, cool characters. Well, the sad truth in my experience is none of that matters all that much. Playing many matches of ARMS in a row starts to feel very similar. You shield to charge your attacks, punch or grab depending on what your opponent does, and maybe get a setup for a rush attack. Most of the special attacks I mentioned earlier, for how many weapons there are, they pretty much all do the same thing, of knocking your opponent down, disabling their arms, or doing extra damage. For example, lightning attacks stun your enemy and leave them wide open. while exploding attacks stun your enemy and leave them wide open. Wind effects knock them down and do a bit of extra damage, while fire effects knock them down and do a bit of extra damage. You get it. And you do those same actions over and over and over, without any variety besides the stages. There aren't really any combos you can do to get the upper hand. Things don't change match to match. It feels like the same round you just played 5 minutes ago. It's like what could be the most interesting situation ends up being the most boring part of boxing. Waiting and hitting. Waiting and hitting. And maybe that translates well in professional boxing, but not for gameplay. Arms combat eventually ends up feeling like this. And trying to move around the punches when they do come out is quite honestly exhausting. The game feels much slower than it looks. I found it hard to stick this game out for all of the hours I put into it, because no matter how long you play, you don't feel any faster. What you do feel, though, is a great sense of monotony. ARMS suffers from not having much replay value, which is very important in a fighting game. You want people to keep coming back and learning what arms work well with which character and what does that combination go well against. But it ends up being a fun game with fun ideas, but only for a little while. Instead, what you learn is that every combination that you put up against any other combination will have the exact same result. The game got free DLC, had an amazing cast of characters, fun stages with unique ideas, but unfortunately ended up feeling like a tech demo for the Joy-Cons rather than a fleshed out experience. Now, based on what I just said, this might be a bit shocking, but I'm an ARMS fan. I love the character design, the weird and colorful world and fighting stages, and one more time! It makes me sad that the core gameplay of ARMS isn't that entertaining, which really sucks because it's all the game has. Not to say it's even awful, but you play it for an hour and you've experienced pretty much everything it has to offer. This is why Min Min's inclusion into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate has made me so happy. Yeah, baby! Yeah! Yeah!
Oh my god, I'm not that surprised.
Yo, no, we're not too surprised. Yes! Yes, baby!
Will you see that character tomorrow, baby? Yeah!
Yes! Being able to have the best parts of this game in an engine like Smash, ARMS fits perfectly and makes me and so many others happy to see Min Min up there next to the other mascots of Nintendo. I hope this inclusion means big things for ARMS. Maybe a sequel could be coming. Who knows what the future holds for the series. As of now, though, ARMS is currently a game full of potential that missed the mark for many people. And at a $60 price tag with not much content besides the core fighting, it feels pretty empty and unsatisfying. Even completing the campaign on the hardest difficulty with every character gives you nothing in return. The online relying on the core gameplay means it's pretty bare bones, and without many people to even play it with, there isn't much ARMS can offer the player. Currently, as it stands, I'm giving ARMS a 2 out of 5. Good luck with the next game. I'll be there for ARMS 2.